Hey, there we go. See?
Welcome to Learning Photography with Duck. Here's your host, Duck.
Hey everybody, how do you like that little intro, huh? Buddy of mine hooked me up
There we
with the voiceover. So,
Yeah.
anyhow, we're here live in my studio and we're going to be doing a Q&A. So basically, get your questions ready that you want to ask and we'll tackle them. So the first thing, let me do a little bit of news first. Of course, every first Monday of the month, we have my Lightroom class here in the studio. So if you want to learn Lightroom, you bring your laptop. BJ already knows he's been coming to the workshops quite often. So that's Mondays, first Monday of the month at 6 o'clock. The second Monday of the month is Lightroom. It's the same principle. Bring your laptop. We talk about and learn Photoshop. The third Monday of the month is right now. It's what you're seeing here, live Q&A. Anything you want to talk about that's photography related. If you got a question, if you have a problem that you have a question to and you need it solved, hit me up. We'll try to solve it for you. Of course, the big news, coronavirus. All right, a lot of people are being stuck indoors. My stepdaughter has two boys. I have two grandkids. They are now completely out of school until who knows when. And she's a nurse, and she just got promoted to a infectious disease. I don't know what the official term is, but basically an infectious disease readiness group. And so lucky for her, she's on call 24/7. And when you got two little ones that are out of school, it's going to put a big dent in her day. So my wife, God love her, quit her job, and she's on call to babysit.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Pretty
Uh,
chaotic.
So anyhow, a lot of people that I know are now stuck at home because a lot of businesses are closing. The building that I'm in houses about 30 businesses. A lot of them are sole proprietorships, so they're still doing their thing. But up on the third floor, we have a gym. Um, they do tumbling for kids and cheerleading and all kinds of stuff, and by state law, they are now closed for 8 weeks, 2 months. He's closed. He's hurting. He doesn't know
Yeah.
if he's going to be able to survive that shutdown. So a lot of people are really hurting. Now, I've talked to a lot of photographers, and I've posted a post in the Facebook group that if you guys are going to be stuck at home, hey, maybe we can do a couple of these online workshop stuff just to have something to do.
I think it's
So
a good idea.
yeah, so if you get an idea, post it to the Facebook group or shoot me an email and we'll see what we can do. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Now
so anyhow, let's
you're
get into this. If you have any questions, let's hear what you got. What are your problems? What are you trying to solve? Anybody got anything? I lost BJ. I lost your video.
no, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
The
BJ,
video,
I see an Escher, but you've disappeared.
Yeah, the
correct.
video camera
There,
disappeared.
I'm back.
Oh, there you go.
I
Oh,
just,
Yeah.
yeah. I was just trying to be a little discreet to drink my drink.
that's your business.
It's been that kind of day,
As much as
Yeah, yeah. The That's been the problem. A little distracting today with all the news.
mm-hmm.
So Well, I thought I have to tell you that the session with the pen the other night was excellent. Once I was able to get home and practice a little bit, I'm going to take on a project. I have my zebra pictures, which I took in Africa, and while I was there, I saw a number of black and white zebras where they had removed the entire background. So essentially, you saw the zebra against a white background.
Hmm.
So that'll be good practice for me to create that. So it was good,
Good, good.
but it didn't generate any more questions. It just means I just got to keep practicing. That's the hard part with that. Pen takes
Yeah,
a steady hand.
a lot of it is muscle memory, whether it's muscle memory on using your camera or muscle memory on using your brain.
Yeah,
You know, that's why I'm kind of a stickler for processes because it makes learning it a little bit easier. You know, getting into that
definitely.
workflow that you can repeat over and over. So,
Yeah.
so no questions from you, huh? I'm gonna have to come up with something then. What about you, Fred?
Yeah.
No, I tell you, I saw you had a class. I don't know how many times I've gone to a class at your place, and I always learn something. So I figured, well, tune in, see what I learn.
Okay. All right. So, well, let's see. I'll have to uh, I'll have to think of what we can teach remotely here. All right. So, the one thing is, I have this nice view of the studio, but of course, now that I'm tethered to this thing, you know, unless I do this
You
thing and
may
walk
not be,
around, you know, I can do
depending on the
something like
cap.
this, you know. What can I do to teach you something? What's the burning thing that you've been wanting to learn? Maybe we can approach it that way.
I'm
Something
without
light.
inspiration.
What's that?
I'm without inspiration today.
Okay.
Uh,
After the 13% drop in the markets today, I'm in a state of shock.
Yeah. Um, it's
and a
hitting a
monkey
lot
at
of
the
people.
wheel.
Yeah.
But you know, and it's the hard thing about it is that it goes down quick and it's very slow to recover.
Yeah.
That's the bitch part about it.
Yep. I may be canceling a few trips here. Um, but that's all the more reason to go hike around the woods here and do some local outdoor photography.
Yeah. Oh, actually, you know what I didn't mention? Let's see. Where is it? Oh, there we go. The other thing I did mention, now that the weather is getting a little bit warmer, and hoping that this coronavirus thing blows over. The other thing that I'm going to be doing is every year I do a multiplicity self-portrait event, and that's where we find a location, we set up the camera on a tripod to take multiple shots of yourself in different points in the scene, then come back and through Photoshop we assemble a portrait where you're telling a story all with just different yous in the scene. And actually, let me see if I can
I mean, by
pull.
the layers, you take multiple photos of the same individual and have them reappear in the photo.
Yeah, so let me actually I have samples that I can show you. Let me go over to oh it's my other camera. There we go. There we go. Multiplicity. Where are you? Here it is. All right, so this is one of the earliest ones I did, and as you can see, I set up the camera in front of a pool table, and I placed myself around the pool table. And these images, this is not quite multiplicity, but this was from last year, a few years ago. All right, so this is the standard setup. You plant your tripod, you compose your scene the way you imagine it, and then you place yourself in different positions throughout the scene. So each one of those is an individual image, and then using simple masking techniques, we mask ourselves into multiple locations. So it's a lot of fun. I normally do it once a year. This time I'm probably going to be doing it a couple of times. One down in this area here, and the other one up in the Hartford, New London area. Get some of the people up in that area. This is the one with my wife. I kind of roped her into it. This one's my favorite. This one, I put a little bit more thought into it, with costume changes, and built a theme around what I do, which is photography. So
Yeah, yeah, real a photo shoot.
yeah,
Well,
it's yeah, and the way we work it is people, pair up so that you're not working by yourself, because it's very hard to do this by yourself. You need that second set of eyes to say, okay, like for example, this one with me on the bench. It says, okay, well now you were sitting there last time. You need to be over here this time, so they can kind of guide you and remember where you were the previous time. So it's a lot of fun.
and
It's
you're
a challenging. It challenges you both on the camera end and in the post processing end. And the outcome you can see is pretty impressive, and it looks like you put a lot of work, but it really is fairly simple. If you have the basic understanding of masks, you're good to go.
and
This
your
one I did in
your
studio.
your
What?
tripod is sitting in the same place. Your
Correct.
camera
Yep. Tripod sits in the same
is
Right.
place.
just the same.
You get your depth of field the way you want. You set your focus. Put the camera on manual. Nothing changes between frames. The only thing that changes is your position. All right. That's another one I dragged my wife into.
Scale. Yeah.
All right. So it's a lot of fun. So I'll be doing that, um, like I said, a couple times this year. So I'll be posting it in the Facebook group. Um, you know, once the weather warms up and this coronavirus lets us go. The other thing that's very popular in the past is a photo hunt. What we do is we find a location that's fairly what's that has a lot of opportunities photographically. And I have a deck of cards, and what we do is we randomly pick a card, and you have to do what's on that card. You have to capture an image based on the description that's on the card, and you have a certain amount of time to capture it. Then we get back to the group, kind of share what we did, and we make another round. So it allows you to be spontaneous, be quick on your feet, and sometimes breaks you out of that the typical thing that you normally shoot. It breaks you out of that and forces you to do something that you may not normally do. So that's always a lot of fun. There was a request to do street photography. I wanted to keep it here in Connecticut rather than traveling all the way to New York, but unfortunately, New York, that's the king of street photography. So what we might do is we might break it up into a street slash architecture photography session. Either one of the big cities, Stanford, Hartford, New Haven. So stay tuned. We'll be doing something like that. The other thing I want to do this spring is get into some lighting workshops. I've been doing a lot of the lighting workshops through Milford Photo, but I like to get people in here if possible. Studio lighting, either tabletop or shooting models or shooting people, I should say, not models. All right, and of course, suggestions are always welcomed. If there's anything that you want to learn, we can build a workshop around it. That's always fun to do. So anyhow, that's for that news. Okay. All right. I gave you time to come up with something. Anything? No? All right.
I was interested in what you were saying about your workshops, and I was not trying to come up with a question here.
I distracted you.
Lighting. Do we? I just finished my taking pictures of my art
Okay.
uh, with the lighting, with my rather basic studio lighting.
Right.
But the thing, of course, that I was working on was the shadows that would hit the glass, the UV glass or the non or plain old glass.
Right.
Um, but when you're dealing with, for example, your model back there, do you try to keep your lights at a 45-degree angle, 90-degree? How do you effectively control the lighting on those?
Oh,
Since she's there waiting to be pointed at.
yeah. All right. That's Diane number two, by the way. Diane number one is my wife. And so I needed a
Okay.
practice mannequin, so I bought this. It was like $20. It's cheap. It's a garbage piece of plastic, but it does the job. It was this god awful white
Yeah.
plastic that I spray painted, and of course I had it in the studio at the house when before I got this place, and my wife walked in to a freshly spray painted mannequin, flesh colored, nude. And she's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I go, "Oh, this is my other wife, Diane number two."
Yeah.
Uh, so anyhow,
She keeps
so
you company in your studio.
I'm sorry.
She keeps you company in your studio.
Yes, she does. She does. She's a very talented assistant. Doesn't complain. She doesn't even ask for a paycheck. Eats very little. Stays where I put her. Uh, I use her pre pre event. So if I have somebody coming in for a headshot or a portrait, I'll set up my lights and use her to bounce the lights off of to see get an idea of what the lights are going to be looking like. Now to answer your question, BJ, there's a big difference between lighting something that's flat and lighting something that's three-dimensional. You approach it in two completely different ways. With your photography of the artwork, because everything is behind glass, what you have to worry about is the angle of incidence and angle of reflection to make sure that you don't reflect the lights into the camera. All right. Just last year, I did. Let me switch over to the desktop. I did an event. Let's see. All right. So I had the camera on a tripod. All right, and I pre-focused and everything, and then these were the pieces of artwork. All right, they're kind of three-dimensional pieces of artwork. They're done by an artist down in Stanford, and he has these cutouts of butterflies that he pins into all these designs. And here's a little close up of what that looks like. All right. So they needed to show a little bit of the
Oh,
texture, a little bit of you know, the 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 butterfly standing off the background on these pins. So the lighting had to be placed so we can show that without reflecting into the glass as well. All right. So it was very
it had a
important to
UV
show.
glass.
I'm sorry.
UV glass.
I believe it was, yes. So that helps a great deal. All right. Not all pieces were behind glass.
Wow.
This one wasn't. You know, but trying to capture that three-dimensional aspect is kind of tough. So each piece of artwork required three different shots. All right, here's another one. All right, so you can see how I lit it from the side in order to get that drop shadow visible. Had I lit it, you know, a little bit more straight on, you won't get that. There's a good example of what the cutouts look like. So anyhow,
So so you had a shadow from every pin also, right? That you didn't want to capture, right?
uh,
They're all on the little pins.
they're all on pins. Yeah, they're entomology pins. They're bug pins. So the concept is that you have these cut butterflies pinned to a board, like you would in a science center or in a museum, except in this case they're cut from uh, pieces of paper and formed into some kind of design. Like this one were cut out from comic books. So you can see the source material in all the butterfly designs. It was pretty cool, you know. It's
Oh,
very painstaking artwork, and the images kind of reflect that the man hours required. Each one of those is inserted by hand. So anyhow,
so, so you're using the shadow of the lights to give a sort of a shadow effect, a ghostly effect.
well, we're using the shadow.
And was that from placing lights close?
Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
there.
they're fairly close, um, and they were on left and right. That's why you can see a double shadow, one on the left and one on the right. All right, you can see the
Yeah, it
shadows.
enhances the picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Cool.
gives it a sense of depth. You can see that, uh, with a straight on shot, you can see that shadow kind of lifts some off the canvas. It's not like they're just right on there, so you can see that there's a certain depth. All right, and then of course the side views allows for that as well. All right, the only one that failed, one done on black, that was a monster. That
Oh,
absorbed all the shadows. There's nothing you can do. Um, so here's another artist. This one presented a lot of issues because we have colored acrylic that transmitted the light. All right, and we needed to kind of capture that light transmission through the colored plastic, as well
so
as
it was
capturing
framed in
the.
acrylic.
I'm sorry.
It was the frame was acrylic, the
Correct.
blue frame,
Yeah, with a clear acrylic front.
Wow. And was that painted on the acrylic?
No, it's actually printed on canvas. Uh,
Wow.
or
But you caught.
actually, I don't know if it was canvas. It may have been some kind of matte paper as well.
So where you were placing your camera, how far back from the image were you?
Uh, that varied according to the size of the artwork. Some pieces were really small, so I had to move in order to fill the frame, and some pieces were fairly large. Like this piece here was about 2.5 feet across, so that was a good size, and I had to kind of be back a little bit in order to capture it all.
And you were using a prime lens?
No, I was using a zoom lens, 2470. I think. Yeah, my
I did.
2470.
Okay. Well, I was using my 18-250 everyday travel around lens
Hmm.
for my stuff. And I was constantly challenged of, because of the, what am I trying to say? The distortion either being at either end of the spectrum with the lens.
Yeah, you
I was
can't
trying to,
go with a telephoto lens. You can't go to the extremes
yeah.
because you're going to get distortion, and you're also going to get chromatic aberrations. All right, and that's where there's a color separation between the reds, the greens, and the blues and the yellows,
Yes.
because of the way light bends through the lens.
By
So
dis-
it's safer to stay towards the center on those lenses.
by distortion, do you mean compression?
No, you get like barreling on the wide end, and yeah, some form of compression on the extreme end, the tighter end, but more so the chromatic aberrations. That's the bigger concern.
Okay.
So
Those.
I tried to stay between, say, 35 and 100 millimeter. It's sort of in the middle for that, and then move my tripod appropriately. Since I was
Right.
shooting, especially with the antique maps, I had to shoot a full picture of it in the frame, then get the full map, sort of ignoring the frame, and
Hmm.
then a lot of these maps have a very colorful cartouche where the information is and the little sea beasts and all this. So then that was quite a bit of close up.
Right.
So for me, each map or each picture generally had 4 shots, maybe 5, depending on the fine print. So I was moving quite a bit, and I wasn't sure if that was the best approach.
Yeah,
Adjusting my
you wanna fill the frame. You want to fill the frame you want to fill the camera frame with the artwork frame. You want to maximize the pixel density of your camera, rather than, keeping your camera in one position, and then one frame which is large fills the entire frame, and the next picture hang up it's small one, and it just kind of like takes up a quarter, and then all of a sudden you have to zoom it up. Doesn't make any sense. It's better to walk forward, fill the frame with the smaller image. The other thing is,
Yeah.
You're saying that
yeah, go ahead.
BJ's talking about he keeps his lens in the center of its reading, and he moves around from there
Right.
to get his maximal uh, pixel density.
Yeah, that's the better choice. And then as for light placement, anywhere from 45 degree to almost 90 degrees to it would work. So let's say this was the piece of artwork hanging on the wall. You can have the light. You can have the light raking across the front of it, one on one side, one on the other side, in order to get evenly lit. Uh, so anywhere from here to about here is it's gonna be your working area. Anywhere beyond that, you run the risk of it reflecting in the glass back into the camera, and that's not what you want. So, and the other
You
thing you
missed.
got
I
to
missed the
watch
word
out for
reflecting in.
is studio lights. If you have any lights on where you're shooting, and you have your glass here, any lights in this direction are going to reflect as little points somewhere on the glass. All right, so it's best to work in a fairly dark room where all the lights are off, and the only thing you have to worry about is the lights here. Right?
That was the approach I used.
Awesome.
I had a couple of light. I had one small light covered in paper, kind of aimed at the ceiling, and then one small one very low down to light the lower part to take any shadows high and below.
Right.
Good. I feel better. I feel like I did okay. I was happy with the result. A little interesting, just once I got finished and was able to look at them close up, got good, clean, sharp images that I was able to pretty rapidly workflow in Lightroom. So you've confirmed all along here how I should do it. So I attribute a lot of my success to your advice.
Awesome. Yeah. You want to try to get as much of it in camera to minimize your time, in post processing.
Yeah. Well,
Especially, especially when it comes to photographing
I
artwork.
was using the EOS utility, so I was shooting straight.
Okay.
I was using the EOS utility, so I was shooting straight to the computer.
Right. And then the only other thing would be just color balance to make sure that you're capturing the color properly.
Right. Once I got that, it was pretty consistent.
Awesome. Awesome. One tool that I use, if I can find it, hold on. It's a little pricey, but it can solve a lot of color balancing issues, especially when you're doing commercial work. Is the X-Rite color checker? All right. This thing, this is called the Color Checker Passport. It has two parts. The first part is a color card, okay, and variations of warm and cool shades of gray. And then the other side is just a typical gray card. All right. And what you do, it comes with a piece of software. The software has a plug-in for Lightroom, so that it integrates very nicely with Lightroom. What you do is when you have your lights set up, you photograph it. All right. Then you zoom into this part. There's kind of like a little key that the software reads, and what it does is it creates a color profile based on this card. All right, the software understands what each one of these values is supposed to be, and it creates a color profile based on what the camera captured so that it matches these colors better. And when you're doing color work, let me tell you, this is a plus. It's like think it's like $80. All right, so it's not the cheapest, but if you're doing commercial work,
And
especially anything that has to go to print or needs to be color matched, this is invaluable. X-Rite, X, oops, I don't know if you can see it here. I'll hold it up. X-Rite color
X-ray,
checker.
very good.
All right. Now, BJ, you use flash, right? Or constant lights?
Uh, for this work, it was all constant light.
Constant, okay.
I tried a little flash, but I got too much bounce out of it. It was the glare from the flash.
Okay.
And I generally do landscapes and wildlife, so flash doesn't normally. I've got a nice flash, but I've hardly learned to use it. Probably it's something I should do.
Was it a speed light that you were using?
Canon speed light.
Did you throw it into any kind of diffuser, something to make it bigger?
No,
All right, yeah. And you're only working with one, right?
correct.
Yeah, yeah.
I
No,
tried.
you
I
wouldn't have
tried
been.
taking it off.
No matter
Yeah,
what, you
I
wouldn't have been able to get a good shot. Not with one flash. Never in a million years.
yeah.
So
The side lighting was the answer to everything for that.
yeah.
I did take it off the camera and put it on a separate tripod with an extension cord so I could move it around more, but that didn't really add anything.
No, no. Yeah, for artwork, you have to cross light it. You have to, get it off to the sides. And they have to be even on both sides. Otherwise, you get a shadow across the face of the artwork. The area closest to the light is going to be a little bit brighter than the far side. So you need to balance it out. So,
Yeah,
all right.
I
So,
consider
so,
that my effort a success.
so now that you understand that, when we go and we try to do something with a person, a three-dimensional, subject, the lighting structure changes. Now what we're doing is we're working with ratios between one side and the other. So for the artwork that you had, you needed a 1-to-1 ratio between the light on the let's see, your right and the light on the left. Okay, you needed that 1-to-1 ratio. With a subject, what gives it that three-dimensional feel is the sculpting of shadow and
Sorry.
being able to manipulate that shadow by how we place our lights and at what intensity. So, for typical portraits, we tend to start off at uh, 45 degrees to the subject, and that's where you get that 45-degree rule. All right, because it's a very accepted starting point. It may not be the best for your subject, but it's a great starting point. Okay, and whether you're working with one light or two lights or multiple lights, uh, my suggestion to you is always start with one light and then build up from it. All right. So, let's see. Should we do a quick lighting workshop here? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
All right.
good.
Let me load up. Okay. Let me get the camera tethered. And let's see if I can do this without tripping over wires as I present this. Okay. All right. So to tether, we go. All right. So I have the camera tied in with a tether cord. Let me move that camera. I have the tether cord going from the camera to the computer. We got a file, tether capture, start tether capture. All right. And then we're just going to call it test lighting session. All right. So the session name becomes the folder that Lightroom is going to create. All right. I keep this always at always the same. All right. And it's hashtag tethered. All right. Again, I like things very, very easy for me. The less things that I have to change through my workflow, the faster I can move through my workflow. Okay. It's going to start naming images, and it's going to basically take the file name off the camera. It's putting it into my folder that I keep all my photos in. All right, everything that comes off my camera that goes into Lightroom goes into one specific folder. All right, and that also includes the images that I take tethered. All right, and of course they're in my photos folder. All right, and then this is the only part that changes every time I tether, and this is the keywords. All right, so whatever the subject is for the session that I'm tethered, I will put it into the keyword. So in this case, we're just doing a test lighting session, so that's what I name it. Okay. I hit OK. It comes up with this little dialog box. Okay. Lets me know that I am tethered. It tells me the camera. And yes, you can have more than one camera tethered, although you can only shoot one at a time. All right. But if you have multiple cameras, you can switch between cameras. You can control your shutter speed, your aperture, your ISO, and your color balance right from here. Okay. And you can also load up Lightroom presets from here as well. All right. Unfortunately, only one preset at a time. All right. So BJ, you remember last Lightroom class we did presets.
Right.
This one here, you know, my import pop and squat, I can load that right into every image that the camera takes. It's going to have that preset applied. Okay.
What preset is that?
I'm sorry.
What preset is that?
All right. So my import pop and squat, what that does is it does lens correction. It does adds a little bit of sharpening and contrast and clarity. And that's pretty much it. So it's going to apply that to every image. Because what I found when I edit images, I'm always doing that to every image. So I now let Lightroom do it for me. Okay.
By the way, by our question, we're seeing your screen now, and I'm seeing you. Does that mean you're using two cameras, or do you have an output that you're capturing into video?
I'm using OBS, so I can position myself wherever. Yeah. So yeah, I'm feeding this into Google Meet through another program, a presentation program. That way you guys can see my desktop and all that. Okay. Or
thank you. That's what I want to know, right?
All right. Okay. So once I'm loaded up, I normally dock it right here in between my main window and the film strip. Okay. All right. So let me go get this set up. And what I'm going to do is I have a light right above her. I'm going to go turn that off. Give me 1 second. There, that's a little better. Okay. All right.
Yes.
So and this is why I wish I had my wireless mic.
Tell you what, leave it on the stand and we'll tell you if we can still reasonably hear you.
Okay, how about can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So before we even do anything, all right, depending on what kind of setup you have, there's going to be a couple considerations that you need to take into uh, uh, keep in mind when you're setting up. The first thing is you need some distance between your model and the background. All right, because what you want to do is you want to minimize the influence of the lights on your background. Okay, so now when working with lights that you control, you now have to start thinking in terms of zones. All right, lighting zones. So the main zone, or zone number one, is going to be your subject. All right, you are going to be lighting your subject. The other zone is going to be your background. All right, so you can light your background separately. And the third zone that you have to take into consideration is your ambient light. All right, here in the studio, we have the overhead lights. If you're shooting outdoor, you're going to have the sun. All right, if you're shooting indoor, with windows, whatever sun is coming in through the windows, that's going to be another zone. So all those zones have to be taken into consideration, and you need to kind of like balance them out. All right. Now it sounds a lot more complicated than it really is. All right. And at first, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around, how to balance it. Okay. But it's just a matter of exposure control. Okay. So if you can control the exposure on one thing with your camera, you'll be able to control exposure on multiple zones. Okay. So the critical thing, obviously, is going to be exposure on our main subject. Okay. The second consideration is our background. All right. So now what I want to do is, before I even turn on any lights, what I want to do is I want to control my zone 3, which is my ambient lights. Okay. I want to make sure that these lights are not influencing anything on my subject. I have a 100 mm lens on this. I got to switch. Give me a second.
by the way, his cutout doesn't have as good an internet connection as we do, is what I'm guessing. I don't hear you. Oh,
Yeah, it is a little. Normally, it's better than that.
right. But I'm thinking there's something funny in his connection. That's all.
Yeah, it does get a little breakup on it.
Because you're spontaneous, and I'm assuming I am to you.
Well, I just see the image of you, so I don't actually see you.
He's reclining his
Oh, I see.
And
I'm
recliner
I'm
very
small.
comfortably. Okay, so I just put a 2470 mm. All right, that's going to allow me to get within this working range. Normally, I'd be a little bit further back.
That's 24 to 70.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So now, where do we start? All right. I have my lights, which are flash. So because they are flash, I already know right off the bat that I have to be within a certain sync speed to the camera. All right. Now my sync
Oh,
speed on this camera is 1/200th of a second. I can't use a shutter faster than that, otherwise I'll start getting that black banding on the bottom of my image. Okay. I'm also using a radio trigger. So I know that gives me a very, 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 very microsecond delay, but it's enough that sometimes it'll register a dark cloud at the bottom. So I usually like to keep mine just under 1/200th of a second. All right. So my default is typically 1/25th of a second or 1/60th of a second. All right. So I set it to 1/60th. All right, and then the other consideration is going to be my aperture. My aperture, because I'm using flash, is going to control my flash output. All right. When we're dealing with flash, it's not like metering for ambient, where we can control our ambient with our aperture. All right, because the flash is so quick. All right. The shutter really has no effect on it because the flash is going to be a lot faster than the shutter. The flash will always outrun the shutter. So I can't control flash output with the shutter. All right. However, I can close my aperture and choke off the light coming in. All right. So that's going to be my main control for fine tuning these. But I also have to take into consideration my depth of field to my subject. Okay. I'm fairly close to the subject, and the subject is fairly close to the background. I'm going to want something that works within this tight space. All right. If I choose F8, if I have a texture background, I might pick up a lot on that texture. All right. However, if I choose 2.8 at this distance, I may get the eye in sharp focus, but the tip of the nose and the ears will be out of focus. All right. So I don't want to go that tight. Typically, from experience, I know that somewhere around 5.6 is a good working aperture. All right, so I just set it at 5.6. And because we're indoors in a controlled environment, I can set my ISO to 100. All right, so right now, my camera's set to 1/60th of a second, aperture 5.6 at ISO 100. I'm going to go ahead and take a shot. And if I pull it up, okay, we can see that none of the lights are influencing it. All right. You guys can't see it because the contrast is
was
probably a
actually,
little bit too strong. But right in the center, let me see. Right here, I can just barely see a little bit of glint on the front of the nose and a little bit of glint on the lips. All right. So actually here, if I boost up my exposure, you can see it. All right.
Talking about glare?
I'm talking about the picture I just took. All right. So
No, I mean on
basically,
the nose and on the lip. You're talking about
yep,
glare, right?
there's just barely perceptible. I don't know if you guys can see that here.
yeah.
Oh no, we clearly see it. That's why that's obvious. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this was my first shot. This is now to establish my control over these lights. All right. I don't want these lights affecting my exposure all that much. Even though you can still see a little bit, I'm okay with that because I know when I turn these lights on, it'll overpower these lights. Follow? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now I'm good to go. I know that my ambient light isn't going to really affect my final image all that much. All right. And I now have a working range on my camera. So now what I need to do is I need to match the output of the lights to the camera. Make sense? All right, so it's kind of a little
Yeah.
backwards working here. All right, so now what I need to decide now is which one of these is going to be my key light. My key light is the one that's going to be the main illuminator of my subject. All right, and I can approach this one of two ways. All right, I can do a broad light where I'm lighting the broad side of the face, okay, or I can do a short light where I'm illuminating the short side of the face. All right, so from the camera angle, all right, my nose is pointed in that direction. All right, this side here is presenting the broad side to the camera. This side here, most of it is hidden. All right, it's the short side to the camera. Make sense? All right, so
Yep.
that's where we get broad and short light. So if we're lighting this side, we're lighting the broad side. If we're lighting this side, we're lighting the short side. Okay? So that's what I need to decide. All right? And each one of those is going to have a very specific effect. All right? Short lighting tends to thin the face because it creates more shadow here. Broad light tends to make the face look a little bit broader because it's lighting the entire side of the face. Okay, so typically for women, all right, heavy set women or heavy set guys will want a short short light it. Okay, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll short light her. All right, so I have my light over here, okay, and I'm just going to turn it on. And I don't know what setting to set it. Okay. So that light is a 300 watt light, 300 watt second. All right, and it goes from full power all the way to 130 seconds of power. All right, so right now I have it at half power. All right, from half power I can go up to full power or I can cut it down. All right, so it gives me leeway up and down. Okay, and what I'm going to do is now just take a test shot. All right. Okay, typically what I will do is I will use one of these to set my lights. All right, because I already know what the power is on my light, on my camera. I just make sure that I match the power of the light to my camera using a light meter, but we're not going to get that complicated right now. All right, now as you can see, fairly decent, but we have a lot of bright light on the cheekbones. Okay.
We can't see your image.
Oh, sorry. How's that? That's a little better.
There
All
we
right.
go.
So
Far more
we're
informed.
getting a little bit of bright spot on the cheekbones. All right. But if we look over at the histogram, okay, it's not overly that bad. Okay, we're getting some clipping in the hair in the shadow area, which I don't mind. All right, so everything that you see that just showed up as blue, that is registering as 100% black. There's no recovering any detail in that shadow. All right, but
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. I'm not overly concerned with that. I'm not gonna worry too much. My main concern is making sure that her face is lit properly. Okay, and right now, for me, it's just a teensy wincy bit too hot. Okay, it's not too bad on the white T-shirt, but right on the cheekbones and the forehead, all right, we're getting a little bit of a hot spot. Now, this is a mannequin. It's made out of plastic. It's not going to reflect light back the way a human being does. All right. Depending on the person that you're photographing, if they have oily skin, this may be worse. All right. Or if it's a female that did her makeup very nicely and is powdered, she won't have this sheen. Okay. Or if it's a guy with dry skin, you're not going to have this sheen. So you kind of have to judge it based on your actual subject. Okay. Now, from here, right, I can adjust my light in one of several ways. I can increase or decrease the power output of the light. I can bring the light closer or further from my subject. That's going to give me a second control, all right? Or I can feather by pointing it at the subject or pointing away from the subject, okay? That's also going to give me another different type of control, okay? So let's see what this does. All right, so right now we notice that, all right, it's a little hot on the cheekbones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it from half power, I'm going to drop it down. All right, I dropped it from, oh, I'm sorry. I just noticed it wasn't at half power, it was a quarter power. So I dropped it from quarter to an eighth. All right, I'm going to take another shot. All right, so that's one stop less. Okay. The face is looking a little better. The highlights of the face are looking a little bit better. All right. But we've also increased the amount of shadow on the face. So overall, the image tends to look a little bit underexposed. All right. So what we need to do is we need to balance this. Okay. So again, we have a couple of options available to us. Okay. One, we can take some kind of reflector and put it on this side to bounce light back, or we can turn this light on. All right. So let's go with the lesser of two evils. Let's say you only have one light to work with. So let's set up a bounce. With a bounce, what you have to keep in mind is angle of incidence, angle of reflection. All right. This is now a reflector. This is our incidence. All right. The angle of the incidence and the angle of reflection, we want that to make sure that it goes towards our subject. And we want to light this side of the face. All right, because if we notice, this side here is the side that is in deeper shadow. All right, so if we can open up this shadow up a little bit, it'll make this image a little bit warmer. Make sure the reflector's not in your viewfinder. And then take a shot. Okay. All right, so the image on the left-hand side is the one without the reflector. The image on the right is the one with the reflector. And you can actually see.
You need
Oops.
to switch us back there.
Yeah, I have to get used to that. Sorry, guys. You can see that the shoulder and this side of the subject is darker than the shoulder and this side. So just that little reflector has opened up our image a lot. Okay. Now it's still not the greatest image, but you can see what a single light and a reflector can do to really open up your subject. Right? Okay. So now
Oh yeah.
now we can start making decisions. All right, we can say, okay, well, I have another light. How do I want to use it? Okay, well, I can substitute my reflector with this light. All right, or I can take that light and push it to the back. All right, I actually have a third light. I'll use that. We're going to disregard this one for now. I'm going to take another light. This light here. Can't really see it, huh?
Is that on or is that a part of your flash?
All right, there we go. All right, so this light here just has a regular silver reflector, okay? And it's aimed at my background. Now, my background is middle gray on purpose because I can take that middle gray and I can light it to make it white, or as you saw previously, if I don't light it, I can make it dark, okay? I could even make it completely black, all right? So
You
what
can
I
even
want to
make
do,
it green.
yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying you can make gray anything,
Exactly.
including green.
I can even put gels on my light and make that gray into different colors. All right. So what I want to do is on our subject here, all right, we have this bright area here on the face. And then the back of the head is kind of getting lost into all this shadow. So if I throw a little bit of light back here, we're going to now get a separation on this side of the subject. Follow? All right.
Yep.
So that's what I'm going to do. Now, my main key light is now at 1/8 power. All right. So I know I want to be probably at 1/8 or less. All right. And because there's no diffuser on this light, it's straight light coming off of the bulb, I'm probably going to be down really low. All right, so what I did is I aimed it on the complete other side of the studio. Let's see what that looks like.
Is that constant light?
Oops. No, it's flash.
Okay.
Of course, I moved the camera and didn't move it back. There we go. Okay, so that's what the camera's seeing. All right, what I want to do now is I want to move that flash more into that corner, all right, to the back side of the head. And take another shot. fine adjustment here, and there we go. Okay, so it's a little bright on that side. I'm going to turn it down a little bit more. Actually, I can't turn it down anymore. All right, that's a 400 watt second light on that one, so it's a little bit stronger than this one. Okay, and the reason I use a stronger light in the background is because if I'm doing photographs on white for a lot of the headshots, I want to be able to blow out my background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a diffuser, a light diffuser, right in front. What kind of diffuser, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. This is a DIY diffuser.
A DIY?
DIY. Do-it-yourself diffuser.
Yeah.
All right. I went to Walmart, bought myself a embroidery hoop. Okay. This is about maybe 10 inches, a 10-inch hoop. And I put 2 layers of nylon window screen inside it. Okay. So you can see that this cuts out just about maybe, I don't know, maybe a half stop to a stop of light. All right. And I find that this is enough to often cut down what I need to cut down. So I'm going to throw that on there. And you can see it just rests on there. All right. Take another shot. There we go. All right, so now we have a nice gradient from light to dark. So we have light here, dark here. All right, and our subject is lit, light to dark, going the other way. All right, so taking example from the old masters, the old painting masters. All right, we can see that we have, oops, what happened here? We have dark, light, dark, light. All right, so it's a progression, dark, light, dark, light. All right, so we get that contrast, the edge contrast that identifies each particular element. So we have background, we have face, we have hair, and we have background. All right, and we can see that nice progression and delineation of each element by using the luminosity of the subject and the background. I don't know if I just lost you on that one.
Not at all.
All right,
That's
awesome. Okay, so that's a great way of really letting your subject stand out from the background. Okay, so
if let me just see if I followed that correctly.
okay,
Your first approach was to light the face of the subject, to get
correct,
your primary subject, and then get that correct, and then work on the background light.
correct,
Okay.
correct. The you always want to expose proper exposure for your subject. All right, and in this particular case, what we're looking at is the face of our subject. So we want to make sure that the exposure on the skin is the proper exposure. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Once we have that, we can build our lighting to enhance it. All right. So in this case, you know, the earlier shot. Let me pull that one up. All right. The earlier shot, the back of the head got lost. All right. So we needed to separate the back of the head. And there's several ways of doing it. I'm just showing you one by lighting the background. Okay.
Yeah.
So by lighting the background, all right, we're able to create separation. I said, okay, well, this one I lit the background, but it's a little bit too bright, toned it down. All right, so now we're finding the balance. All right, where's my camera? Finding the balance between our rear zone, which is our background zone, all right, and our subject zone. All right, remember we got two zones working here. All right, well, three.
Right.
We got our ambient, but we killed that right at the beginning. All right, so now all I have to worry about is the zone on the subject and the zone on the background. Okay, so we got the zone on the subject set. Now we handle the zone on the back. Okay, so now with just two lights and a reflector, we have a good working setup. Okay, now we can go crazy and add a third light, a fourth light, a fifth light, but we're going to keep this simple for this lesson. All right, now we took care of all the technical stuff. We're good to go. Right now, we just now focus on the artistic part. Okay, what we want to do is we want to take a look at how do the shadows fall on our subject. Okay, can we make them a little softer, a little bit harder? What's going to look best for our subject? So, for example, let's say we wanted to create a little bit more of a chiseled look, a little bit harder contrast between light and dark. All right, what I just did is I just pushed the light really, really close. All right, and because I pushed the light really close to the subject, we're going to need to compensate because we just added light to our subject by moving closer. We're adding light. Okay, in this case, we have to consider the in mental block
Inverse square law.
inverse square law. Thank you. All right, we have to
Inverse
take the
square.
inverse square law into
Yeah.
consideration. Okay, we came in closer. We cut the distance in half, so we added about 2 stops of light. We gotta take that out. All right, so I just took my light all the way down to 1/32 of power. All right, let's take a shot and see what that looks like. All right, I'm getting my equipment in the scene here. All right, one more shot. Okay. All right, so now, remember that balancing act I said between the zones? Okay, we just modified our zone on our subject zone. All right, we've increased the light. All right, so we decreased our setting on our camera to compensate. That means we also decreased the luminosity of our background. All right, our background went darker. Okay, because the camera is going to affect both zones. All right, so we brought the light up in zone 1, right? We did not
Yep.
bring the light up in zone 2. We kept it the same. Okay, so by
Right.
bringing the light up in zone 1, in order to balance it with the camera, we got to come down. All right? So that means our zone 2 came down. We need to bring that back up in order to balance it. Did I lose anybody?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
All right. How much? Well, when I moved in, I lost 2 stops of light. All right. I'm sorry. When I moved in, I gained 2 stops of light. That means when I adjusted my light, I turned it down 2 stops. So that means my background now has to go up 2 stops. All right. And that's what I just did. Let's take a shot. All right. And now, if we compare that to what we had earlier, okay, you can see a big difference. All right. Actually, is that the one? Hold on a second. Let me make sure. No, that's not the one. Which one was it? This one. There we go. Okay. All right. You can see a big difference in the way the shadows are rendered. Okay. Just by making that distance shift. All right. I brought this light in closer to the subject. All right. I halved the distance from my original position to this one. Okay. So I brought my light in closer. All right. The light's going to be a little bit stronger. We're going to have a little bit more of a fall off, but the shadows, the transition of shadows is going to be smoother. Okay. Because we're getting a little bit more wraparound with our light. All right. Okay, and you can probably see the difference in the light quality here. Now, what is meant by light quality? It really isn't the quality of the light. It's actually the quality of the shadows, how the shadow transitions from dark to light. That's how we determine quality of light. All right? So what we want to do is we want to see these nice transitions, all right? And if we look at our earlier one, we have these hot spots, all right, that transition into our true tone color of our skin very abruptly, all right? And then it transitions from our true tone color into shadow pretty abruptly, okay? This side here, all right, we've almost eliminated our highlights because the transition is so smooth between them. We still have a highlight, all right, it's just not as noticeable because the transition into the skin tone a lot smoother, all right, and we see the transition into shadow is a lot smoother as well, all right, and we also notice that the shadows are a little bit more open, okay. Why are they open? Anybody want to venture a guess?
The shadows on the left?
The shadows on the image to the second image, the image on the right here. All right. If you notice, the transition is softer. All right, and the shadows are a lot softer compared to the earlier one.
Oh, more gradient. Yes.
Okay.
Is that the reflector?
It is the reflector. Very good. Remember, we brought our
Right.
light in a lot closer to a subject. It also brought it in a lot closer to our reflector. Okay? So now our reflector's reflecting back more light. All right? So reflecting back more light,
Yep.
we're opening up the shadows a lot more. Make sense?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. And then again, we also compensated on our background by bringing the background light up. However, the shadow side where that light doesn't hit, all right, got a little bit darker. Okay? So what we can do now is we can reposition this light to kind of feather and hit a little bit more in front.
Hey, Duck.
Yo.
Hey, Duck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to drop off and join that Toastmasters. How to do an online Toastmasters.
Okay.
Learn the new world. I,
All right.
I have enjoyed this immensely, and I'll talk to you very soon.
All right. You gonna hit the
Nice meeting you, Lee.
There's also one on Thursday. We're talking about the virus and how it's affecting all the clubs. That was scheduled for Thursday. Are you on that one too?
I wasn't aware of that one, but I will probably join that.
Yeah, that's
Is that again on the online?
that's set up by the district. So, um,
Yeah, this is the I think this is Andrew Watt tonight.
yeah,
So they did one last night, and it was so crowded nobody could get in. I mean, it
okay,
was this
all
is
right,
a whole new evolution. So I'll talk to you soon.
okay, ciao.
Thanks. Figure out how to
All
do it.
right, BJ. All right, okay. Uh, so you follow what I've said so far, Fred?
Oh,
Makes
I'm doing fine. I mean, yeah,
okay.
yeah. This is yeah. I used to teach this stuff a long time ago.
Oh,
I
okay.
I I I just tune into your classes because I always know I'll learn something. It's somehow that simple.
All right.
Uh, so I used to teach the math of the camera so people could actually relate in the head because we used film in those days. So if
Yes.
you knew how to do the math, you could do a lot more things with your slides, so to speak. If
Right.
you could
Right.
pre-visualize it before you shot. Now we're spoiled. We take a picture. We say, I like it a little more or less. But if we know how we get there, we can think more astutely. But oh no, I
Exactly right.
find this stuff fascinating. Oh no, I play with my computer all day and all night. I'm on it. I mean, that's what I do is I look up stuff
Okay.
all day. But photography is something that just fascinates me and always has.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
There's so many aspects that it doesn't matter whether you're left brain or right brain. Photography hits both sides. It's awesome. All right, so I'm just
right? It's
gonna
just a patch.
yeah, I'm just gonna continue then. Take this to its natural conclusion. All right, so again, what I did is I just adjusted this so that we're hitting a little bit more light into the dark side, which from this image here, you can see to the right side of our model, this is very, very dark. All right. So by angling the light a little bit more, let's see. By angling the light a little bit more, we're going to creep some of that light into the other side. Okay. And that's just using an open reflector.
Right.
One more shot. All right, so I adjusted the light a little bit. There we go. Probably a little bit too even. I think I moved it a little bit too far. All right, bring it back a little, take another shot. There we go. Okay, so once we have the technical aspect done and we like the way our lights are set up, at this point is when we'll work with the model, all right, or with our subject. All right, and this is where we work to get the best side, the best look to the person. Chin up, chin down, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. Make sure the collar's fixed. Is the chest open to the camera, or do you want it turned a little bit sideways? It's those little nuances that now make or break a portrait. Okay, but as far as the light, you can see even
Right.
without the use of a flash meter, it's very easy and very quick to get within a working range of your lights. Okay. All right. So from this point, depending on the type of portrait, right now this portrait is fairly moody. All right. It's a little bit more on the darker side, so it's mid to low key. All right, as compared to a high key image. All right, but if we
Okay.
wanted to make it a high key image, we can very easily do that just by upping our powers and introducing maybe a third light. Okay. Any questions?
No, I'm doing well.
Okay. All right. I don't know what happened to Carol. Carol said she wanted to join in tonight, but I think she was having problems. So, okay.
Wait, you're recording this so that you can have this in your library?
I'm recording it. I am hoping that this recording goes very, very well compared to last month's, which we had all kinds of audio problems. And if the audio is captured properly, this will be going up on YouTube, and people can kick back and watch it later. So it's going to go into the library of past events that people can see. Yes.
Cool. Oh, I love YouTube.
Oh, I know. There's a lot of YouTube photographers I follow, you know, and it's funny because as my skill level has gone up, my preference of which photographers I follow has changed. You know, so
Sure.
before I would follow a lot of the photographers that were hitting all the basics, and then some of them, once they hit all the basics, they ran out of material and they started getting into gear review. And I'm like, I don't want gear review. You know, I want to increase my knowledge. So I dropped those guys and started following photographers that previously were over my head. You know, so I've gone up to their level of teaching. You know, so YouTube's great because I can find pretty much any level of teaching right on there. So, and hopefully my videos will become part of the pool of teaching as well. So who knows? We'll see what happens. So,
Absolutely. Right. People know your name.
yeah, in this area, you know, but the nice thing about YouTube is it's you know, worldwide distribution. So hopefully we'll start picking up, you know, people tuning in from other parts of the country. All right. Oh, which reminds me, one of the things that I want to mention, and I think you're a member of Fotomentores. All right. So if you look right down there, all right, you're going to see some links. Um, the first one is the link to my website, obviously. The second one is to the Facebook group, which is what I recommend everybody sign up to. I'm actually getting away from the meetup group in, I think it's in June or July. Uh, my subscription runs out. I'm not renewing it. Meetup is not doing anything that I want it to anymore. It's just
It's
gotten really, really
lost
bad.
its cost effectiveness.
What's that?
Okay. I said it's lost its cost effectiveness to you.
Oh, absolutely, yes. A long time ago, but I, you know, stubbornly held on to it, and I made a change, hoping that it would be a change for the better. It was actually a change for the worst. So I'm at the point where I don't need a meetup anymore. I'm actually getting more out of the Facebook group than I ever did with Meetup. So um, between making announcements
I get
on
everything by the
yeah, between making announcements on my website, on the Facebook groups, and now through through here, I'm sure I'll be able to get a lot more coverage. So once Meetup is the
Oh, then
subscription
like a
is
quickie
runs out, that's
suggestion.
it. I'm dropping it. But
If
the
you
other
want
thing
someone to
that
click on,
what's that?
I have a quick suggestion.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a long thing like your Facebook group, the thing you want to be known for, so to speak, get the QR code, which you can get for free, put it on your card or put it on the screen. Then the people go bing with their cell phones, and it's a no brainer. They're there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but there's only one problem. Yeah, I could do that, I guess. Um, it depends on what I'm marketing to, you know, because I still have my business clients as well. So I tend to market
No, no, this is just for those.
right.
This is
Um,
just for those that you want in that place. It's not for the whole you. Are you hoping that, in other words, are you hoping you'll have a busy enough channel that people pay shekels to hear your wisdom?
it
That I'm
would be
assuming is your
nice.
goal,
It
right?
would be nice. Actually,
Why not?
if you look down below, I just set up a Patreon. So I'm gonna be pushing that as well. People can sign up to my Patreon page, and if they wanna give me a donation, that'd be great. Um, but as a money maker, it's for me. It's never been about the money. For me, it's been about the teaching and the socializing and getting out
Passion.
and shooting. It hasn't been so much about
You
making
bet.
money. You know, I got clients
Clearly.
I can push for that. You know, the majority of the people that listen to me are amateur photographers. All right, this is not something that they're going to go into, you know, hog wild into to make money on their own as a professional. They're just in it to get better images from their love of playing with a camera. So I know that a lot of people don't have a lot of expendable cash to spend on workshops, and that's one of the things that's killed a lot of the local workshop presenters is that they're they're overpriced. And they're overpriced because they're probably trying to make it into a business model, and it's going to kill them. You know, that's why I rarely charge more than like $20 for a workshop because most people can afford $20.
Right.
You know, but when you start charging
Right.
$80, you know, that's when people
Right.
start balking.
I've been to yours. Right. I've come to several of yours. Uh,
And we have fun,
yeah.
right?
Right. I just want to learn. All right. I just want to learn something every day, and that's how I find out. I go to talks at Yale often.
Right.
I see him on Facebook. I go. They had one online yesterday because it was canceled on Saturday.
Yeah, yeah.
So I go because I like to get into the buildings with a camera so I can take high def pictures while I run out during the break so I can have green screen backgrounds.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So,
I mean, I look at life as one big green screen background.
right. But, a lot of times those types of events, tend to get a little bit overcrowded. And do you really walk out with, something that you can really use?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know?
I got into the School of Organization and Management to hear John Kerry speak and a few others. And because I have my left leg is whatever, I got out a little bit early so that I wouldn't be trampled.
Right.
And then I had time to sit, set up my shots, know people, and I got some great interior shots until I got caught on the camera.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's life. You could do that, or the Yale galleries. You can take all the photos you want, as
Yes.
long as you're not trying to sell images to people and using that. If you're
Right.
not trying to cheat Yale, they don't care.
Right.
Oh no, like oh no no, I do that. I do that or whatever. Sure.
Yeah.
No.
But I've been to some meetups where uh, the ones, especially the ones where they'll hire a model and they'll have the lights all set up
Yeah.
and they'll place the model and they'll tell you, okay, in order to shoot this model with these lights, these are the settings you have to be at. And then you go home, you look at your
Mhm.
pictures, and they look like everybody else is in the group. And in the end, what did you learn? You learn to take pictures like everybody else that look like everybody else's, you know. So I would rather work on something that teaches more on the fundamentals level, kind of like what we did here, all right? Uh, because once you understand the
Right.
fundamentals, you can apply those fundamentals to just about anything you shoot, you know. So how to
Oh,
set up a light, all right, with a subject. Does it matter that the subject is a mannequin? No. It could be a real life person or it could be a pair of shoes. All right, the fundamentals are the same.
by the way, when I think of lighting, I think of can I still see detail I need to within a highlight? Because I'm back from the old black and white days. Is will I still see detail?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And can I get detail in your beard, in my snow, in your white church? I would say, I want you to get up close to a white church and I want you to take a picture of it. Mind you, this is the film days. And they come out with the gray church. And mine was nice and white and all that. And I said, I didn't do any work. I just knew what I was doing.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's the same way here. All right.
And that's when you taught me and thinking about it.
Yeah, you just have to know, you just have to understand how the light meter works. All right. The light meter wants to turn that white shirt into gray. So you have to make sure that you can overpower that light meter with your settings. And you say, you know what? I'm not going to follow
It's
the
calibrated.
what? Say that again.
Your meter is calibrated at 18% reflection.
Correct, which is relatively middle gray. All right. So my
For the
background.
record, a hand, if you're black or white, is 36.
Uh,
Just a bit of trivia. So
well, yeah, it's what is it? It's about 2.5 stops
so
difference,
one,
or 1.5 stops
you would
between.
one stop. It's 36. It's one stop, and you just adjust your lens one stop, and you're go
Yeah,
on with your day. Remember, we had to know that stuff because otherwise you came back without pictures. Nowadays, they just push the button and an algorithm has solved it. Unless they're getting very close to a wedding cake, they'll never be aware that that phenomena exists.
yeah. Either that or you burned through a lot of Polaroids. Yeah. All
Right.
right.
So, yes. Anyway, so it was nice seeing you.
Well, I'm glad you tuned in. I'm glad we got the audio fixed.
Yeah. And
I'm sad that I am going to have to let my little lavalier mic go, but obviously it's not doing the job. So I have to find some other means of being able to walk around the set without being tethered to the microphone like this. It is what it is. Maybe I'll get one of those wireless headsets. Who knows?
I might have a lavalier around.
Yeah.
that would be from technology, so it would work fine.
Yeah. Well, this thing
No,
here, this thing's got to be at least 10 or 12 years old. You know, it was good back in its
you
day.
might want to check. There might be a defect in the wire. I don't know. I don't know why that wouldn't work. It should have worked fine because that output to RCA if you wanted it to, or
Yes. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
or
I
whatever you
might
want
have
to
to
convey.
check the wire in the back. I think that could be. So, who knows? But I
Right.
appreciate you hanging out with us. And
A nice, nice.
like I said, because of the coronavirus thing going on, a lot of people are going to be home over the next couple of weeks. You know, maybe we'll do something like this during the week. We'll see what kind of interest. I made a post on the Facebook group, so depending on
Okay.
you know how active that post becomes, I'll run something during the day, and you know we'll set something up here. We'll have fun. You know, we'll set something up here that people can set up at home and play along with, because I think people will get more if they can set up the same scenario at their place and kind of follow along, you know. So we'll have to look into that. But Fred, I appreciate you coming out and joining us, and I definitely appreciate your input. And hopefully we'll see you the next time.
I'll see you. Thank you.
All righty, my friend.
Yep.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Learning Photography with Duck. Brought to you in association with Milford Photo, your local full-service camera store. Located in downtown Milford, Connecticut, Milford Photo offers you a personalized shopping experience. From the latest camera gear to printing and framing services. And, of course, educational workshops to teach you the finer aspects of photography. Don't forget to tell them Duck sent you.